Hey everyone, and welcome back to the SCREENY. Dr. Phil brings us the weirdest of the weird on a frequent basis, with guests leaving us so stunned that we can't pick our jaws up off the floor. If there's something strange going on, then you can bet your bottom dollar that it's about to be on the Dr. Phil Show. Join us as we take a look at the 10 strangest issues on Dr. Phil. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more amazing videos about your favorite movies and TV shows. Number 10. Dog Dude. This one is truly impressive, scoring off the weird scale. You might say it's barking mad. Gary went on the show convinced that he's actually Boomer the dog, a half pup, half human. Dr. Phil was clearly riled by this guy, asking him how it felt to be a 48-year-old virgin that walked around town in a paper dog suit all day. While most of us were marveling at exactly how someone can live a life like that, the doc was getting down to the nitty-gritty and trying to work out why Gary was avoiding real life. The shredding paper sheepdog costume was really something to behold, and Gary claimed it made his life better by allowing him to be more social with others. He believed that people loved it and were more likely to talk to him in this getup than they would be if he were just a regular Joe wearing regular clothes. It's pretty sad, as Gary seemed like a sweet guy who just doesn't fit into society in the way that we would expect. Fly your freak flag proud, Boomer. Number 9. 800-pound man. Obesity is a rising problem in the Western world, with the US and the UK often reporting worrying statistics. We're all prone to putting on an extra few pounds every now and then, but could you imagine it getting so out of control that you suddenly weigh 800 pounds? Back in 2012, the doc spoke to a young man that could barely sit down in a chair. Well, in fact, he couldn't. He was so huge that he had stopped being able to stand on scales years ago. Regular scales weren't able to hold his weight, so Phil had an industrial scale brought into the studio so they could weigh Robert, who was almost 200 pounds heavier than he thought he was. Like many people with obesity issues, the 23-year-old had got himself stuck in the cycle so badly that he just couldn't see how to get out of it. Phil asked the young man some questions, and even talking was a huge struggle for him. He couldn't sit up conventionally, and it was difficult for him to look at the doc when he was talking. Robert wanted to have a normal life, play basketball, and ride a bike with ease. Thankfully, Rob has since lost 300 pounds and is continuing his journey to get healthy. Number 8. Baking Soda Mama. The doc was joined by comedian Steve Harvey for this episode, and they both looked awestruck when one woman started talking about her favorite food, baking powder. Maria told the host that she first started eating baking powder when she was pregnant, but continued to do so after she had given birth. She demonstrated how it's done by mixing cornstarch with baking soda and taking a big old bite, before asking the pair if it was a strange thing to do. Both Phil and Steve were amused by the situation, but the doc, being the doc, had to give some sage advice. Maria admitted to eating 2 to 3 tubs a week, being so addicted to the stuff that she had a container at work and in her car. When Phil mentions restricting the amounts that she ate, Maria didn't seem happy at all, saying that it gave her a kind of emotional release. When it was Steve's turn to speak, he had the audience howling by asking Maria what was wrong with her. McGraw even tried a bit himself, but he wasn't swayed by it at all. Number 7. Girls are weird. Going out and sleeping with a bunch of random strangers isn't exactly something to brag about if you ask us, but hey, we're not here to judge. Oh, who are we kidding? That's exactly what we're here to do. Blake called himself a man whore and basically said that women were only good for one thing. His sister took him to the doc after branding his behavior as disgusting. Blake couldn't see what was wrong with it and said that he just loved loose women. His mom was absolutely mortified. Phil asked Blake if his attitude was actually how he felt about the opposite sex or just a front, but the young man said it wasn't. According to him, he was just doing exactly the same thing that's the woman he slept with were doing. It was just a mutual thing. By having more than one woman on the go, he believed he was protecting himself from getting hurt. Blake's sister took him down a peg or two, but he still couldn't help but laugh and defend his behavior. Something tells us that Blake is a sandwich short of a picnic. Number 6. Year-long pregnancy. This isn't a first for the Dr. Phil show. These two women visited the show just a few short weeks ago to discuss their pregnancies, which they never had confirmed. They both believed that they had been pregnant for over a year, which, as the rest of the world knows, is impossible. The doc shipped them off to have an ultrasound, and both Shayna and Zona were still convinced that they would see their invisible babies on the screen. Shayna showed the nurse how she actually finds the heartbeat using a Doppler, but coincidentally, she couldn't find the sound during the exam. Despite all of the tests being professionally undertaken, the two women still wouldn't believe that they weren't pregnant. Zona told the doctor that she wasn't thorough enough, and that she knew without a shadow of a doubt that there were babies in her tummy. Both Shayna and Zona sat on the stage with Phil and the OBGYN, accusing them of not looking properly for their babies inside their stomachs. It turns out that Shayna was very nearly diabetic, which would explain her weight gain, but she wasn't taking the slightest bit of notice. McGraw gave them both a dressing down. Number 5. Negative TRACY. The age of social media is well and truly upon us, and while it can be a great thing for some, it can be the kiss of death to others. TRACY went to the doc to discuss her social media addiction, but it went far beyond posting the odd selfie and wanting a like or two. The 20-year-old admitted to posting things to get negative attention, rather than positive, sharing cringeworthy videos, stories about her life, and photos that she knew she would get hate for. TRACY even shared her wish to get sexually assaulted, which she calls a fetish. It's not hard to see why 90% of the comments underneath her stuff is pure hate, is it? Her insane behavior didn't stop there either. After being bullied in high school, TRACY made a fake Facebook profile and catfished over 200 people, sending them horrible abuse in a bid to get revenge. Obviously, there is something seriously wrong with this girl, and the doc knew it. He wasn't about to let her attitude slide. Number 4. Psychic KADEN. KADEN and Matthew were one of the oddest couples that the doc has ever had on his stage. Matthew was abused as a child, which gave him all manner of issues in adulthood, according to his lover. The pair lived together in an RV in the desert with no running water, and KADEN believed that she had diagnosed Matthew with her psychic ability and X-ray vision. Okay. According to her, her boyfriend had homie stuck in the House of Mirrors syndrome. What? We don't know either. When the doc asked Matthew if he thought it was possible that KADEN had been damaged as a result of things she had faced in life, he just said that they were all damaged to an extent. Matthew even seems to believe that KADEN's claims to be able to see broken bones just by looking at someone could be true. How far gone were these two? Pretty darn far. The doc challenged KADEN to tell him where his broken bones were, but she refused, saying that she felt too attacked to demonstrate her abilities. This woman was so far gone that she wouldn't put up with any of Phil's facts and continued to defend herself. That pot is cracked. Number 3. Rabbit Mama. We see a lot of messed up stuff on Dr. Phil. There's a reason why people often refer to this show as a human zoo, but this one really put the cherry on top of the cake. Frances went to see the doc because she was obsessed with being the best possible mom to her 13 pet rabbits. While we're all for animal lovers, this woman took it a step too far. Frances dressed the rabbits up in baby clothes, complete with pacifiers and bows, tucked them up in cribs, and generally treated them like actual babies. Did they look cute? Sure, but come on. It doesn't take a genius to know that this is not healthy. Phil didn't sugarcoat it and told Frances that the 13 rabbits meant 13 rabbit funerals in the not-too-distant future. Could she really handle losing one of her babies? The woman was that insane that she even tried to breastfeed the rabbits on occasion. Just like Phil said, they don't talk back, they can't go to the movies, and they can't have a good conversation with you. Number 2. Black or white. It's not often we see a black teen who believes that she's white and better than black people. The youngster appeared on the show with her concerned family, stating that white people never had any problems and that she was simply Caucasian. The doc enlisted the help of therapist Spirit, who offered up her views from the audience, telling Treasure that she was just in the midst of an identity crisis and didn't hate black people but hated herself. The 16-year-old didn't hold with Spirit's evaluation and laughed in her face, calling her a hood rat. Despite being so obviously African American, Treasure maintains that she was white and would continue to be white every single day she woke up. Spirit wasn't swayed by the disrespectful teen and invited her to come and shadow her while she worked in Atlanta, but the youngster wasn't having any of it. Number 1. Going blind. Losing one's sight has to be up there with the most awful things that can happen to you, and it's not to be taken lightly. One woman was so convinced that she was going blind that she took to wearing shades all the time, but doctors told her that there was nothing wrong with her. Clearly in a fragile state, she appeared on the show to discuss her issues. Phil tried to say in the nicest way possible that it was likely the mom was simply overthinking usual eye movements and attributed her symptoms to anxiety. It looked and sounded like Jessica was really going through a hard time, and her illness was really all down to psychological issues that hadn't been dealt with. The doc explains that sometimes our minds can play tricks on our bodies, often making them feel like there are problems when there really aren't. Let's hope Jess got the help that she needed to take those glasses off and live a shade-free life. Thank you very much for watching today's video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more amazing content, and don't forget to check out one of the other 2 videos on your screen.